Real people, real stories. Meet hope. Welcome to Healing Connections, a podcast led by United Way of Erie County. Each episode brings you honest, heartfelt conversations about mental health, addiction, resilience, and recovery. With every story, we lift the silence and create space for healing and reconciliation, because no one should have to struggle alone.
Healing Connections podcast. Episodes were made possible by the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Erie County.
E.J. Brinson is the host of Healing Connections. He is the creator and producer of the podcast. He is dedicated to breaking down stigma and driving actionable change around mental health and addiction. With over 20 years of experience in nonprofit leadership and program development, he currently serves as CEO of United Way of Erie County. Today on Healing Connections, we are joined by two extraordinary guests from Safe Harbour Domestic Violence Shelter, Hazel Foley and Beth Wimmer. Safe Harbour is a critical lifeline in our community, offering safety, counseling, legal advocacy, and 24-hour support for individuals experiencing domestic violence. In this episode, Hazel and Beth help us understand the realities of abuse, the warning signs, the barriers survivors face, and the compassionate, practical support their team provides every single day. Their work brings hope, protection, and a path forward to those who often feel they have nowhere else to turn. This is a powerful conversation about courage, healing, and the vital role Safe Harbour plays here in Erie County. We are honored to lift their voices and share their mission with you.
Welcome to United Way of Erie County's Healing Connections. I'm E.J. Brinson, and today we have some very special guests from Safe Harbour. We have Beth and Hazel. And today, thank you for coming out, Hazel and Beth.
Always
We're excited to be here.
Always
Let's-
happy to raise awareness.
I'm definitely excited about the opportunity to have you on the podcast today. When I first arrived at United Way, one of the organizations where I knew we couldn't cut funding was with Safe Harbour, with it being the only resource for individuals that are affected by domestic violence to get some assistance and help. So you mind sharing with me a little bit about Safe Harbour, Beth or Hazel?
So we are a domestic violence program. Of course, we have a shelter, which is confidential, but we have a number of other services that can help people who don't necessarily want to come to shelter or need to come to shelter. So we do a number of things in the community. We provide a support group, which helps with healing. Beth does some crisis counseling with our clients. Of course, we do safety planning. We have a crisis line. So if you think you need anything from us, call us.
You would share anything, Beth, about Safe Harbour?
Part of the crisis counseling I do, oftentimes people need civil protection order. So I'm in courts helping people to protection orders. The prosecutor's office does them also, but we do protection orders too.
Awesome. Now, how long has Safe Harbour been around, and how long has United Way funded Safe Harbour?
It's 36 years this year. As long as I've been there, which is, I think, coming up for 11 years, I've known about funding from United Way. Further back, I would have to check the records. I'm pretty sure for most of the time that I know of. So we're really grateful for that funding because it helps us continue our operations. Local funding is always welcomed. There's always gaps between, federal and state funding, and United Way helps fill that gap for us.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. And we're glad to be a part of it and looking forward to building upon our relationship with Safe Harbour like we're doing here today and in other ways, and getting the community and talking about domestic violence and ways to, work through those complicated situations. We started out with me asking you for a few songs that kind of get you through your week.
Right.
And for me, I think that what's important, art is huge for me in regards to like mental health and addiction and challenges. because it allows us to express ourselves. So I thought it'd be a really cool idea to ask you for some of the songs that kind of get you through a week that's kind of challenging and tough, and then also for design. And within that, what I did is I made you an album cover.
Wow.
So I want to share that with you here.
Oh, I love it.
It's here.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I love that. Wonderful. Wasn't expecting that.
Well, this is yours.
Oh, I get to
Eh,
do this.
Yeah, and so I did want to talk a little bit about the songs that you shared with me. Can you share what they mean to you and how they help you get through the week? And the reason being is I think it's important for everyone to have moments where they kind of just decompress, whether it's a hard work week, whether it's just a long day, and be able to unwind through that week through music and maybe drawing, poetry, whatever that individual sees as a way to kind of uh, relax.
Sure, good self-care. Everybody's Talking by Harry Nilsson. It just sometimes feels like everybody's talking at you. So that just reminds me that, I need to take control and control what I'm listening to and get on with the day. Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles is pretty self-explanatory. It's just like once you've taken control and you're organizing your day, it just feels clearer. We Are the Champions by Queen.
I love that song.
What more can I say about that?
Right.
That's how we feel when we get things done.
Right. I totally agree. Now the front cover, you said you when we initially talked, you said horses running free.
Yeah.
And the audience will be able to see the portrait on the album cover as well.
Right.
Can you describe what that means to you, running free? And
that just to be free.
Okay.
That's what freedom signifies to me.
Okay.
Horses being free. I don't know why I connect with that. It's just freedom, really. And I love horses. It's all about horses, pictures, anything to do with that. And that just is perfect.
Yeah.
That's a perfect cover.
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to ask, so my wife is a counselor. I don't know if you knew that or if I shared with
I
that
think
before.
you told me that.
And we had a conversation prior to the podcast, and she was sharing with me 1 in 4 women are a victim of domestic violence, and women go back 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that and share a little bit about
Yeah, she's right on. It takes a person 6 to 7 times to leave for good. And, you think about how complex domestic violence is and the relationship in general. There's love and hope for change, and that's what keeps people in probably a longer, maybe sometimes. But the love part, love aspect, somebody who maybe you thought you were going to share your life with, and they're abusive to you. And so that changes the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Right. Now, when we think about abuse, I want to make sure our audience knows abuse could be verbal, right?
Absolutely.
It can be physical. You mind talking a little bit about that?
Abuse can be verbal, emotional, physical, financial, sexual. I mean, it can rear its ugly little head in many different ways. Emotional abuse, level drop, not being engaged in the relationship after you think you've got this great relationship. Invisible to a person.
Yeah.
Verbal. People come in and I'll have an outreach with someone and they'll say, the physical I can heal from. The bruises go away, but what he says to say to me, what they call me, I feel less than. And that's the way the abusive party wants to. That's the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So they can take control.
Yeah. Now, there's some red flags and green flags that we were talking about What are some of those?
Red flags would be, jealousy,
Hmm.
because that's never love. Control, just the desire to control anything and everything, but also moving too quickly in that relationship, moving towards engagement, moving towards marriage, pressuring all the time. Um, but really, in the beginning, it can look like love bombing, getting so much attention. It's really very complex and specific, but it's pulling you into something that turns out to be something else. So if it doesn't feel right, if it feels odd, go with your gut instinct every single time because your intuition is always correct. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not right.
Yeah.
So,
And jealousy can be mistaken. People think, oh, he cares about me. He's so in love with me. Oftentimes.
Right. Now, what would you describe as like a healthy relationship? There's people probably thinking about, okay, yeah, domestic violence, but what's healthy? What's those green flags? What's
Mutual respect, I think, is
mutual respect is a big one. Yeah. And sharing decisions. It doesn't matter who's earning the finances in the relationship. These financial decisions should be shared. And that's respect.
absolutely.
So if you're both living in the same household in a relationship, that has to be shared equally. Really, anything being shared equally, and that person needs to consider what your opinion is, being heard, and not being put down, or that your ideas are inferior to theirs. So these are some of the green flags. But if someone's been suffering from abuse for a long time, you forget what these green flags are. And so it's hard to even notice the red flags too. And it depends what your situation has been before. You may not even have the ability or know what a good relationship is. So you're building it from scratch.
wow,
So
that's wild.
that's a hard part. If you don't ever know what that normal feeling is, you have to really work at figuring it out.
Now, Hayes, I know that you've been a victim of domestic violence. Do you care to share a bit about your personal journey?
So my personal journey, so I was married to a really good person, John, for 25 years. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. That was back in 2008. Um, and I'd been married to him since I was 21. We virtually grew up together. It was a relationship filled with mutual respect. There was no domestic violence. I didn't know anything about domestic violence. So when he passed away, I met someone um, who happened to be abusive. Uh, I kind of I missed the red flags of that because I had never had to deal with it before. So things went on and it got worse and worse. And my son at that time was 10, 11, and right at the crucial point when I was getting ready to leave because there had been threats with a weapon, I knew I had to leave. I didn't know how to do that safely. I was very afraid. And my son noticed that I had bruises on my arms, and I made an excuse to him about that. And he said, "But Mum, they look like finger marks. How is that?" And I thought, well, why am I not being truthful about this? This is not my fault. I didn't create this. I'm a victim of this. Um, and my mum had reached out to Safe Harbour, got their number. I called and I had a meeting with Beth. And from that point forward at that meeting, I didn't look back. We just planned for my safety. We went straight to court that day and filed for a protection order. I got out safely with my son and left. But then, of course, the healing part comes after that. So when you're in crisis like that, it's really hard to make good decisions. And that's where Beth was able to walk me through scenarios, what to expect. Because you're in danger, You really don't know what the next steps are. And it kind of stepped up a little bit because there was stalking involved and violations of the protection order. Didn't really know what to do, but quickly learned how to reach out for help to the law enforcement, who were really helpful. Um, so once you get through that part and move on to the healing, that's really a lengthy process, which I was able to do with the help of Safe Harbour, coming to support group there, sharing with others, hearing what others had been through, and really just learning the ropes, because you have to remember who you were before the abuse started. And so once you get back to that point, it's easy to start setting boundaries and start to feel whole again, because it really does throw you, it throws everything that you know about yourself off, and you have to remember it all again. It's really hard.
Mhm. Were there people that you knew and maybe share with you, hey, you can do better? Um, then
I had a
and
friend who contacted me. I had been isolated from my family and friends. That had happened gradually. And a friend reached out and said, I really miss you. I haven't heard from you in a long time. And it was like the penny dropped. And I thought, she really cares about me. Why have I not seen her? And I came to the realization that every time I would try and see a friend or have contact, it was always, stopped for some reason. And so, because of that, that kind of made me understand that you've got to get away from this. This is not okay. It's not normal. Your friends miss you and they still care about you. It's not that they don't care. It's just that I had withdrawn from everything because I was too busy surviving, because you have to be perfect, in that type of relationship, or there's assaults or verbal abuse or mental abuse, definitely financial abuse. So you really have to be aware that people care about you still, and they do, like they do. So that was what made me really reach out for help.
okay. Now I heard you mention isolation,
Mm.
bruises,
Mhm.
verbal abuse. What other attributes? What other things should people be aware of?
The
Yeah.
fear of leaving. So, that's where safety planning comes in, because, Beth was able to explain to me certain things that I hadn't thought about that could happen. So you're able to plan for that. It's really hard because when you're so busy surviving, it's really hard to verbalize to others what your plan is going to be, because you're kind of making it up as you go along, because things change. The goalposts move all the time. So you have to really be thinking on your feet, which is very hard when you're traumatized. And that's where a safety plan comes in, because you can remember small things and small steps rather than looking at the big picture at that point. So that was helpful.
Okay. Beth, you might talk a little bit more about safety planning. I mean, I think that everyone that is involved in a relationship that's abusive should have a way out. I remember during the holiday season, we did a video together with what you guys did a video for United Way, and so that wasn't the prime time to leave, but it was a prime time to actually have a safety plan. You kind of want to expand on that?
Sure. Um, it's important to have a safety plan because, as you've probably heard before, leaving is the most dangerous time. Um, because the abusive party is uh, could be feeling, if they're aware, that they're losing control, and that's the last thing they want. So, um, having something in place and that you've already planned out, safety planning, something, having an extra bag with important documents in it, like birth certificates and Social Security card, a spare set of car keys, anything important you want to take with you, because you could only have a 5-minute window to leave
Mm-hmm.
and move safely. Having your car parked facing the street is so you can, you don't have to worry about reversing or whatever. Um, uh, just having it planned out, because in the heat of the moment, your brain is not working the same as it would at other times. So, having a safety plan is very important.
Yeah.
It's just that flight response.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to get away from the abuse. So, but you have to do it safely, otherwise it becomes fatal.
Right.
And we're very aware of that.
And we're, when somebody comes to see us, we have no expectations of when or if they leave. We just want to inform them and let them know there are services available, because I'm still, surprised sometimes that people say, "Oh, I never knew this existed," or "didn't know this was out there." So we like to inform people of their options and let them know we support whatever they decide to do.
Right. Right. Now, how important is to have like a family member, a friend, someone that actually help you? So,
That's important to have that support. It's really important to have a trusted friend. Someone who doesn't judge anything that you're doing, so long as they can understand that it's so difficult to verbalize what you're doing. You can barely function. So verbalizing what your plan is to someone else is extremely difficult. So small steps like, I'm going to leave a bag here with you, that way I'll have access to it whenever. Or I might need to call you to come and get me. Or just a trusted friend who just doesn't ask questions, because you're not going to be able to answer their questions. And it can complicate sometimes. Friends mean well, but when they're pushing you in one direction, but you're really trying to go in another direction, it's difficult. So just a good friend who's willing to understand what you're going through.
okay. Okay. Now, sometimes survivors, they're worried about finances, but also children, right? And pets, and things like that. How would you suggest someone work through that? I mean, it's kind of challenging when you think about your children and a safety plan for that, and even if you have pets or other things that you're concerned about, other variables. So, what's your suggestion around that?
Well, it depends on the situation for as far as pets go. Of course, if someone's coming into our shelter, we have it's between the person who owns the pet and the vet, and we connect them and they discuss options that way, sheltering the pet. So, as far as children go, just providing a safety net for them, letting the kids know that you know, they'll be okay, the family's going to be okay, and you're doing what you need to do to provide safety for them, upon the.
And they will have seen abuse, so they're aware of it. They will have seen the abuse, but they also see the victim fix that situation and make it safe. It's like, it's like a teaching process too. They learn from that as well.
Okay. Okay. What other things can a domestic violence shelter do to help individuals in the community other than providing a safety plan and a place to go? Is there other ways? Maybe educational workshops. Like what are there other ways that?
Well, I mean, we educate at our support group. We go out into the community. We speak to the new nurses at Firelands every orientation and explain to them, how they can best help survivors. We speak to the new police cadets, explain to them from a survivor's perspective how it feels, so that they understand when they're approaching them, what the best practices are. We want to create opportunities for people to disclose and to get help. So it's always about the opportunity to do that. And if you make a safe place, listen to them carefully, that empowers them and gives them the opportunity to disclose if they need help. So,
because the abused party has not had power in that relationship or any control over their own life. So it's important that we listen and we give them options and let them know what community resources are for them out there. just let them know that.
Right. One of the things I was just thinking about as you were speaking, and when people begin to get into a relationship, of creating boundaries. How important are boundaries, and what does that mean to you? And what are some ways that individuals, women or men or whomever, can create those boundaries um, in their relationships?
I mean, a boundary, saying no without an explanation is an acceptable boundary, but most people have to apologize for saying no. I mean,
Boundaries in an abusive relationship are disregarded by the
completely.
They're trampled.
There's no privacy.
There's no boundary that's kept intact. So getting a protection order, that's a boundary. That's a huge boundary. So, and that's a hard one. Setting boundaries if you've not been able to. It's
But with
just,
practice,
there's a learning curve.
Yeah, with practice, it gets easier.
Because if you've got no self-esteem, because you've literally but it comes with
And support. And just a reminder every now and then that it's okay to say no and not have an explanation for that. Mm-hmm. Silence is too. Mm-hmm. That's a boundary. You don't have to respond to everything.
Right. One of the things that seemed like when you were talking, especially with your son, and it rules, it seemed like internal blaming about things. How does someone that experiences domestic violence kind of work through that and that trouble? Is it?
You mean the guilt?
Yeah, the guilt.
Oh, the guilt is terrible.
Yeah.
So, counseling, we always suggest that, counseling is always a good way forward to help you process what's happened. But I always like to say, be kind to yourself. So however you would speak to a puppy or a small child, you need to speak to yourself like that too, because none of it's your fault. You didn't cause it to happen. It happened to you. So you have to really forgive yourself. It's easy to say, oh, if only I had done this or done that. At that point, you were not in a position to do those things. Mm-hmm. You were controlled. You were not able to make those decisions. The guilt's terrible. That's one of the hardest parts, learning that you were not to blame for that. So we talk about that a lot at support group.
Abusers are so good at their game that, the abuse is insidious. It just kind of moves in. And before you know it, you're in love with this person. You have these deep feelings, but you're but yeah, there is a lot of guilt, and it's really heartbreaking. But we work with people to reset the negative tapes. Are their own worst critics.
Yeah,
and we really try to work in our support group with people to build their self-esteem up, because when they come out of an abusive relationship, left, there's a shell of what they were when they entered the relationship.
Within those workshops, can you share like a story of someone that's rebuilt their life? Like they were in an abusive relationship, and then, you know what, now they're doing great and they're back on the right path. And I would hate to leave this podcast without letting people know, you know what, you can rebuild. There is a new start. There is a new beginning. So is there some stories without names that we can kind of talk about to put uh, a story out there for the public to kind of understand, like, hey, you know what, this works.
Right. There was a gentleman in the shelter, and he had a terminal illness. And we were contacted because of that. They noticed bruising. So he came into our shelter, and we just want to put it out there that it can happen, males as well as females. But I think he really learned a lot. He would come to support group. He grew a lot because of our support group, and he was able to leave our shelter and sort of life after.
Yeah. He had had a terrible time at home. He had been locked in a room, wasn't able to attend treatments. Unluckily for him, he made a really smart decision to pick somewhere else for his treatment, somewhere that his wife wouldn't know where he was going that day. And that's when he took his shirt off for treatment, the staff noticed that something was not right. They created an opportunity, and he was able to contact us and come straight to us from that treatment. So, yeah, it does happen to men too.
Okay.
He wasn't able to really defend himself any longer.
So someone that is out there probably listening now is probably scared, and looking to get out of a relationship. What advice would you give them today?
Call us.
Reach out.
And how would they get in contact? What's your phone number?
They can call our crisis line, 419-626-2200, and somebody's waiting to talk to them.
And I just want to put this out there. If you know someone in an abusive relationship, be supportive, be non-judgmental, because it really is something that person has to do when they're ready. Can't push someone into it, push them away so they have no support, but their decisions. They'll do what they need to do with it.
Be a good friend.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I'm very, very grateful that you both came out to kind of share, one, Hazel, your story, and share about Safe Harbor. I would hate to leave this podcast without asking you one final question. Is there anything else that we can share with the public about domestic violence, about safety, counseling, workshops? Are there any workshops you guys offer that people can
Our
take
support,
part?
support group.
Safely accepted on the holidays.
Yeah.
And they would have to call.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Call for information, and we'll be happy to meet with people and go over their situation and come up with help for them, whatever they're suffering from. So just reach out, help is there. This community is extremely generous, and survivors don't realize that they have options. Once they know they have options, it's pretty fast moving from there. The community is extremely supportive. You don't know that until you test it. So,
That's true.
Anything else? Yeah.
What Hazel has just said is very true. And, getting a protection order is something to consider too.
Yeah.
It's safety too.
Right.
It's another layer of protection.
So those that may not know what a protection order is, how do they go about that?
Well, it's a packet of paperwork that you fill out, and I can give assistance with that, and then go to the common pleas court. It's a civil action. It only becomes criminal if someone violates it. And it's kind of nice that I'm able to go with people to court, because the court process can be daunting, especially if you've never dealt with courts. So I can kind of walk people through it and be there to support, because it's a hard thing to do.
Right.
And anyway, walk people through and tell them what's going to happen during the court process. So again, be there for support.
Okay. Is there a cost associated with that?
There is no cost. It's free.
we don't charge for any of our services.
And the court doesn't.
Okay. And I think that's important to highlight. So individuals know, there's an option.
Sure.
And that you would help work through that process with them.
Sure.
Again, I'm very grateful that you both came. And one of the things we like to give to our guests is a gratitude journal.
Mhm.
And part of that is just spending some time to yourself. Self-care is important. And I'm going to give both of you what's called the power in me, because I think the power in me gives individuals the opportunity to kind of just decompress from their day.
Yeah.
Spend 5 minutes with yourself, and work through that for 30 days. And then what we ask is that all of our guests just let us know how you feel in 30 days.
Mhm.
And,
That's perfect.
We are all about journaling. Thank you. We stress
Perfect.
journaling. You know, it helps with the healing process
okay.
because you can get it all out
Yeah.
on paper. So this is perfect.
And you
Thank
get
you.
to look back
Yes.
at the beginning of the journal and see how far you've come in 30 days. It's
Mm.
good for that. It's positive.
Self-reflection.
Mhm.
All right. Well, you would suggest the audience get out and maybe get a journal to kind of work through some of the things.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Journaling is really good, but you don't have to write pages
No.
and pages, just your feelings. How do I feel today? You know,
3 sentences.
Right. And that's what we try to do, make it very simple within that 30 days. So, again, thank you so much. Is there a website or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that you have, social media that people can follow you or contact you?
we do have Facebook, Safe Harbour OH, Harbour with a U. So we have that, and we do have a website, safeharbourshelter.org. We're working on that right now, and of course our crisis line. So that's available 24/7. If somebody wants to find anything out, call that number. There's always somebody available to talk to you.
Okay. And can you give us that phone number one more time for the crisis line?
All right, 419-626-2200.
All right. Thank you so much. Any questions for me?
No,
Did you
just-
enjoy yourself?
Yes, thanks for having us. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
painless. I feel okay now.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Well, thank you so much for your partnership.
Thanks.
Thank
We really
you.
appreciate the hard work that you guys do throughout the community, and I'm looking forward to doing more with you both.
Good. We couldn't
Great.
do it without United Way. We couldn't.
If this episode moved you, inspired you, or reminded you while healing matters, consider donating to the Healing Connection podcast. Your support keeps sharing real stories, lifting real voices, and bringing help to our community. Together we heal, together we rise.